Hey everybody, welcome to really what I'm going to consider week one. So this is me recording on the afternoon of Monday, August 17th, and I'm going to be talking not only about what we did today in class, but also what we're going to be doing tomorrow in class, Tuesday, August 18th, for all of you online learners or anyone that has, missed for whatever reason. So I have first period's Google Classroom pulled up here just as an example. To kind of go over some of the things that you need to continually be aware of that are due, and some things that we've done in class, and of course that you're still responsible for if you're an online learner. So first up here, if you look, I have posted this week's agenda board. If you're in class, you see this in the class, but those of you again that are online, hopefully this helps you stay organized and so that you can kind of see my system. You can see the last chance days, you can see when things are due. Instead of just seeing them on a computer screen, you can kind of have like a physical spot that you can go see it. Now this Why Study History assignment is directly tied to this Why Study History Word document right here. You're going to want to pull that up, read it, and then you go in and answer the questions. Obviously, we discussed that a little bit today in class. Why study history? Why is it important? We're going to watch a video at the beginning of class tomorrow before we get started on Unit 1, which is Early Civilizations, that just kind of hopefully amps you up a little bit more about history as well. But again, that Why Study History assignment and the questions, it is not due until Friday. So if you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten caught up with all of these other things that she's expecting us to do, no worries. Again, it's not due until Friday. Okay, so the basic social studies vocabulary quiz we did today in class, those of you that are online, whenever you pull this up, you can scroll to the side in each section of that online quiz. So, yes, you're clicking the definition that matches the word, but if you're like, I'm missing 2 or 3, scroll over. And you're going to need to do that in each of the 3 sections of that quiz. So if that, hopefully that helps, because I know in class today we kind of troubleshooted with that. So if you have any questions though, even still after me explaining that, just shoot me an email. These are the links to these Cetera map quizzes. We did these on Friday in my on-level classes. We did these today in my pre-AP classes. So you just click on those. You're just simply going to take the quiz, okay? You take the quiz, you write down your percentage, you write down the time it took you, and then you go in here to the Cetera Map Skills activity form, and all you do is underneath continents and oceans, you type in, I got 98% right in 48 seconds. It's that simple. And you're going to do that for each one of those map quizzes. Again, and fill it in for the Cetera Map Skills activity. Remember, online learners, not only are the bell ringers for a grade, they are your attendance check. So there are some of you that have, yes, you're in Google Classroom and that's great, but you're being counted absent because you're not doing the engagement piece, which are the bell ringers. So every day there's a bell ringer. The kids in person are doing them here in class, and you are expected to do them as well. You have to complete them by 11:59 p.m. every night or you're counted absent. So you need to make sure that you are going online and you are getting that piece done if you want to be counted present. And you've got your bell ringers again, and you need to get that done. Your syllabus and grading policy quiz, we did that last week. That needs to be done by Wednesday. The Pen Pal assignment is just for pre-AP students. Most of you, I believe, have contacted me and told me which person you want. Those are due by Friday. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know. The syllabus and grading breakdown quiz is not meant to be an I gotcha. Again, like they're right here. You can pull them up and look through them as you're taking it. And now we're back down to the original welcome post. So hopefully this kind of went over everything really quickly and just kind of helped reiterate the things that I had already mentioned last week to you. So with that being said, let's move on to the Unit 1 information that we're going to be getting to tomorrow. There we go. And so the spread of civilizations and the rise of civilizations is very important, obviously, to the growth of politics, to the growth of economics, culture, art. I mean, you name it. If it weren't for civilization occurring and we were all just still roaming around looking for food, none of the things I just mentioned would have ever happened. And again, like in my opinion, the world would be way more boring. So this is one of the videos that that I was talking about why study history. So how do we know about all of this stuff, right? Like you're sitting here going, okay, Miss Latham, this is all fine and dandy, but how do you really know that all of this stuff happened? Well, thanks to archaeologists and thanks to anthropologists and also like out in the field research historians, we can get a pretty decent understanding of a lot of history. But I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that it's all out there and that we know it all, because that's not true. My teaks and the information in a textbook right now is going to say that the earliest known civilization were the Sumerians within Mesopotamia. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which is an archaeological site that was discovered, I want to say like 15 years ago or so, it dates back 10,000 years prior to the Sumerians. And this is an archaeological site that shows a very advanced society. And we don't really know anything about them right now. We're still trying to figure out, you know, what was this site for? Was it a religious site? Was it a ritualistic site? There's absolutely no bones buried at this place. And again, there's a video on Göbekli Tepe that we're going to watch probably by Wednesday. But there's just all kinds of things that kind of go into history. And yeah, it's a very fluid subject, and there are new things coming to light all the time. And that's just what makes it, in my opinion, all that more interesting. So, I don't know. I know my face is kind of blocking the Indiana Jones picture there, but, by far, the coolest history and professor to have ever lived, and too bad he's fictional. But, anyways, the Paleolithic age is also known essentially as the Stone Age, and this is when we were nomadic hunter-gatherers and, we were just simply roaming around, following the food or finding the food sources so that we could survive. I mean, that was essentially what the Paleolithic age was all about, okay? Until we had what was known as the Neolithic Revolution. So, what does the word revolution mean to you? Most students, when they hear the term revolution, they think war, they think fighting, they think of the American Revolution. And of course, that was a war. But really, revolution in its most simple definition just means change, okay? And the Neolithic Revolution was a change from roaming around looking for food to staying in place, because all of a sudden we're planting food and we can harvest it. And then we're also domesticating animals. So the animals are staying in one spot and we can utilize them and breed them. And if we need to, slaughter them or get their milk or whatever else. And so boom, all of a sudden you have settlement. People staying in one place instead of moving all over the place, trying to just make it off of whatever they come across. So this truly was the most huge change and what catapults us towards civilization. Because if we didn't have permanent villages, those permanent villages, of course, wouldn't turn into bigger towns and then cities and then, of course, empires. So, it's very much a domino effect, but it had to start with ag and with the development of, again, like crop growth in one spot along with the domestication of animals. So what is the single most important development in all of human history? Well, I just told you, ag, okay? And my fellow Latham counterpart, Miss Amanda Latham, would, I feel like she would always really appreciate this this particular lesson. So yeah, the domestication of animals, growing crops, and all of a sudden, the ability to stay put is really truly the most important thing that happened, that shifted all of human history. Okay, so where did this start to happen? Where did this take place? Where are the first permanent settlements? Well, even if you consider Göbekli Tepe, which is in Turkey, that's not far away from the Fertile Crescent, which is the area in between the Tigris and Euphrates River, and which is modern day Iraq, or parts of modern day Iraq. Okay. So this is the area that will become Mesopotamia. And this is where the Sumerians and the Babylonians and the Akkadians and the Assyrians that we're going to be talking about this week, that's the area that they were all in. And again, it just started with a simple, hey, here's a river. This is pretty fertile land. There's some crops that continually grow here that we could potentially grow more of. Hey, let's build a cage. Let's start putting these goats in a cage and breeding them and keeping them in one place. And boom, over decades and of course eventually centuries, you end up with your big empires and civilizations. So the definition of a civilization is a complex culture in which large numbers of people share a number of common elements. Okay, so social structures, again, you have one. You're going to see me do this a lot this year. This is a social pyramid, and it's because every civilization is going to have one. It is human nature for people to put themselves into a social pyramid, okay? For example, if you were to take a big group of people and go dump them out in the middle of nowhere and be like, survive, we'll be back in like 6 months, a hierarchy is going to form. You're going to have people that naturally fill leadership roles and people that naturally are followers, and they're going to be more of like your doers, and then your delegators are up at the top. And so, and people just naturally do that. If you look at any civilization, any society, you have a social structure, okay? You can look at it even in businesses even to this day. Look at a school, for example. You have your superintendents, you have your principals, okay? You have your leadership people, and then you trickle it down from there. And so, again, it's just the way humans operate. So, people that are like, oh, social structure should go out the window. Well, I hate to tell you that just all that would be is anarchy for a little bit, and then we'd go right back to some type of social structure. It's been proven many times throughout history. So let's just break down the basic characteristics of a civilization. Well, you have to have cities, okay? You can't just have like this tiny little bitty village. Like, you have to have a legit city, okay, with an abundance of food, a very distinct pattern of living, and a people that have formed a coherent culture, okay? Governments are going to start to arise. There's that social hierarchy piece again. People are going to naturally seek out leaders. Back in the day, most of the time, the leaders ended up being people who the gods tended to favor, it seemed, or they had the most, or, because they had the best crops, or they had the best animal production. That's really kind of where it started usually. And then, they look to those leaders and they look to those people to give them structure and to give them rules. And so it isn't just anarchy. If you came in the very first day of school in my class and I was like, whatever, I don't care, do your thing, then it wouldn't work. You would seek structure and you would seek rules. Hang on just a second. I'm recording. That's okay. So that's what I mean by like regulating human activity. And then number 3, religions. These are naturally going to form because human beings want to understand what is going on. Like, why all of a sudden is it raining and it's been super hot and dry forever? Did we make a rain god happy? I mean, so there's, and again, when you don't, that sounds crazy to us now because we have all of this understanding of science and meteorology and all of these beautiful things that have now come to light. But think 10,000 years ago, they didn't have those things. And so they were sitting here trying to figure out this big giant yellow ball comes up every morning and then it goes down and it's replaced by this kind of bluish grayish ball. And we can't touch them. We can't ever get to them no matter how far we walk. Why is it in some areas it seems like the big ball is bigger and hotter, and then in other places it's not? They don't understand the science behind all of that. And again, it's human nature to want to explain the world around you so that you feel like you have some sense of control. So that's how religions really kind of got started. And like 99% of your original religions were all polytheistic. That means multiple gods, multiple goddesses. Okay, so because you had a sun god, you had a moon god, and you had a fertility god, and you had a crop god. You had all kinds of gods and goddesses, and so they were praying and idolizing, every little thing that they couldn't quite explain. Okay. Again, social structures. I feel like I've talked about this. People will naturally put themselves into divisions, leadership positions. Hey, your strength is, maybe they felt like one person's strength is talking to the gods. Okay, you're our priest now. Boom, new social division. So, again, people are going to naturally put themselves into that social structure. Writing, of course, that's hugely important for civilizations because if they didn't leave something behind, we don't know they existed. Okay, and in all reality, there are actually probably lots of history out there that we don't know because there was no written record for it. It was all passed down orally over the generations and it was lost. So there are languages to this day that, of course, are lost languages because we stopped speaking them, and that didn't have a written form. And so, writing, of course, is hugely important for a civilization because you keep records, and of course, you're going to stand the test of time because there's record that you were there. And then art. Art is the final characteristic of a civilization because if you have a true civilization with cities and prosperity and a large conglomerated culture, you're also going to have people that all of a sudden have the time to be creative and to think outside the box and create poetry and create these epic stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the very first written poem and story that we have in recorded history. And it is weird, let me tell you. Cool, but weird. So, and they're going to create paintings and they're going to truly leave a mark that stays behind for centuries later, us to try to see, to look at and figure out and dissect and get to know them, even though we're thousands of years removed from one another. And so, art tells us a lot about a civilization and a culture. The more art there was in a civilization, that tells you right there, they were more prosperous because then that means people had essentially more time on their hands to be creative instead of just worrying about survival. So that is the original spiel of, the characteristics of a civilization that we're going to talk about tomorrow, Tuesday, August 18th. And then on Wednesday, we'll start Mesopotamia. So that's it for today. And I will update the videos and feed again tomorrow. Hopefully, if all goes well. So, bye guys. Have a good day.